Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of the Hussein Muhammad podcast. If you'd like to skip to any part of this podcast, you can do so through the chapters feature on YouTube or the timestamps in the description. Now, today's guest is a fellow voice actor from Egypt whom I've shared the movie screen with. He's been featured in video games, film dubs, anime, and a lot of awesome projects. He's a teacher in his day job, but when he's working as a voice actor, he's constantly improving his craft and gives a unique perspective on the technical side of acting and voice acting. I'd like to welcome my friend and wonderful colleague, Hesham Elshazly.
It's very, very honored to be here. Thank you for having me here. It's
Of
really
course.
exciting.
Of course, man. It's wonderful to have you here. We're going to talk about a lot of topics, like, where we learned English, a lot of insight into the voice acting world, some stories from voice acting, and it's going to be a lot of fun. All right, man. So, I have a question for you. Since we
Of
met,
course,
like, this was in 2021.
something like that. Yeah,
Oh yeah, like man, that was crazy. We met basically through The Journey, which is the anime film that we're both in.
correct.
What do you remember from that? What that was a while ago, but
Uh,
yeah,
I think I remember. Yeah, it was. I think it was after we probably both found out we booked it, and then maybe after we finished recording it. That was either end of 2021, beginning of 2022, something like that. I
yep.
remember. I guess I wanted to like talk to anybody about it because I couldn't NDA, but I'm like, what about a fellow cast member? So I was like, wait. And I found your profile. I was like, wait, is this the one of the same guy I saw in the name? Because there was a article. Yes, I remember an article for
Oh
Crunchyroll
yeah,
that mentioned, yeah, and it mentioned our names. And I was like, is this Hussein? And I'm like, maybe. Then he didn't respond. I was like, okay, maybe it's because of NDA. But no, I guess
yeah.
he just didn't get to the message. Then you're like, yeah, it's me. And then I'm like, and then we started talking, and it was pretty awesome. So getting in touch and then finally talking about the movie because yeah, NDAs are tough, guys. And
Oh yeah,
sometimes you're like, I want to talk about this, but then you're like, I can't. I gotta wait. But
bro.
yeah, I guess that's
Mm,
where it all started.
I was waiting for
Yeah, go
so
ahead. Sorry.
long to talk about the movie, man. I was like, I
Same
want
here.
to talk about
Same
this.
here.
It's amazing. Like
It's a big deal. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. And like we were waiting for that recording session for a long time. We got cast, but we were
Yeah.
uh
Yeah.
I got
Yeah.
cast in
Yeah.
like
You reminded
oh yeah.
me.
Mhm.
I was just saying, you reminded me. Yeah. Speaking of getting cast, I remember when I first auditioned for it. Like it was like through a friend who saw the casting call on Bang Zoom's Twitter, and they're looking for Arab voice actors. So I was like, okay, and I had no idea what it was. I just sent in my email, my demo, everything. Then they responded like 2 days later. They're like, oh, audition for anime, and I was literally like just waking up at the time, and I jumped out of bed. I was like, what? Am I reading this right? Are you sure? I don't live in the U.S. And they're like, yeah, audition for anime. I'm like, okay, I'll send in my audition. Then I was surprised. They're like, oh, because they gave me 3 characters to audition for. It was Haukab, the one I got cast for, and 2 others. I think I can't remember what they were called, but I know one of them is performed by the amazing Christopher Sabat. The other
Mhm.
one is performed by the incredible Alejandro Saab, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Yeah.
So yeah, but they were like, "Oh, we liked your audition for Hellcub and all that." So after I auditioned, there was a callback audition. Then after that, they did a test with the audio for my audio quality from my studio, and then I asked the audio engineer. I was like, "Am I cast or anything?" He's like, "I don't know anything. We're just testing." I was like, "Okay." Then a month passed and nothing. So I actually thought I didn't get it. I was like, "Okay,
Yeah.
I didn't get it," and I was like, of course, like you're like, as much as you would want to really get a big gig like this, you're like, okay, I didn't get it. But then out of nowhere, I got an email from Amami Okada, and she's like, oh, you were chosen. I was like, what? So I get that. Like you're like, really? But then it took a
Yeah.
while, and then I recorded. I think my first time was in January, and then I recorded a second time like 2 weeks later, in the beginning of February because I recorded Hellcup, and then we recorded a few extra characters, smaller characters here and there, a little bit of Walla. So yeah, it was like 2 sessions, and then we waited a long while after February until it released in September. Yeah, September. I remember.
Yeah, man, it was crazy. I had pretty much the same exact process as you. Like pretty much almost the same exact thing because I got referred by a friend as well. A friend like told me
Oh,
they're looking for
nice.
voice. Yeah, I think maybe it's the same person. I think it's the same person. Oh my god,
Probably.
how did I blank? I'm blanking on her name completely right now.
Chara Lynn?
Yes, yes. Oh my God, Charlene.
Oh,
Yes,
really?
yeah. She
Wow.
does.
I didn't know she also referred you. That's
It's
awesome.
crazy. She got us like our biggest opportunity. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Shout
Yeah.
out to Chara, guys. She's the
Shout out
best.
to Charlene. She is incredible. And yeah, I sent in my email like you did. And at the time, I did not have any headshots. I did not have a resume. I only had my
Oh,
demo. Yeah. And
same
this was
here. Same
2021.
here.
this was
Yep.
this was 2021. I was still starting. This was my second year of voice acting. Actually, it was only
Nice,
like
man.
my first year, I would say. Actually, I started in 2020, and I was still in the first year period. So I
Okay.
was like, yeah, I was like, I was like, what is a headshot? I did not know what a headshot was at the time, and they were
Nice.
like, send us your resume, your headshot, this, and that, and I immediately
Mm-hmm.
like started researching. I made a resume immediately through like a shitty website. It was terrible. The website was terrible.
Oh, that's a start.
Yeah, it
It's a
is a
start.
start. And basically I went and like bought some clothes for a headshot. I did not have any professional looking clothes. Like I had to buy a button up shirt. And
Hey, you gotta hop onto things, man.
exactly, I got it. I did it like for two to
Yeah.
three days. 2 to 3 days. Actually 3 days exactly. I got
Wow.
all of that stuff sorted out, and I got a resume. I got headshots. I sorted everything they wanted from me, and I sent it to them. And I was like, okay, what's gonna
Nice.
happen? And I think,
It's a
as you
hell of a
said,
process.
yeah, man, it was really cool. And like 2 to 3 days later, as you said, I think it was like the same time period. I got the email for the audition. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, wait, what? No way.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
And yeah, it was
It's
the
awesome.
same thing. It was the same thing. It was Nizar, uh, Mus'ab,
Ah, Nizar. Nice.
yeah,
Yes, that was their name. Yes, Nizar and Musa.
and then like one other character. I forgot. I don't think it was Howcap for
Uh,
me. I don't think it was
was
Howcap.
it the character he got cast as? Abdul
No,
Muttalib?
no, no, it's not Abdul Muttalib. It wasn't Abdul Muttalib either. I actually did
Oh.
not. Yeah, I
So you
didn't get
didn't
the
even
audition.
audition for Abdul Muttalib?
Yeah, I didn't get the audition for him at first.
Oh, wow.
Basically, yeah, what
Okay.
happened was I auditioned for Nizar, and I think the other character. How did I forget? Oh, Jubair. Jubair. Yes. Uh,
Ah,
the
okay.
old guy.
I think that's the one that's voiced by Steve Bloom.
Yeah, the Osa's father, basically.
Yeah, his
And
father. Yeah.
basically, I auditioned for those characters, and I did an Arabic accent, which was terrible. You're not supposed to do that. And
Okay,
so
I
they
gotcha.
got back to me like, "Yo, your voice is good." My voice was way too deep for Nizar. Like, wait, I was doing the Abdel Muttalib
Ah, I
voice
gotcha.
for Nizar. It was
Oh,
insane.
okay. So it's
Yeah,
not. Yeah, I could imagine. I
yeah,
could imagine that.
yeah. I did
I
so
mean,
many takes of that
but
audition.
yeah, yeah. You told me it was a long process. It was a long process for me as well. Like when auditioning for Howcub, I think I don't know. I think I sat down for like an hour, hour and a half, really thinking about each line and thinking about the character, and I
Mm.
think I mentioned before how I came up with that like character or if you want to call it voice of Hellcab. Like when
Oh
I
yeah.
saw Hellcab, the way he looks for some reason reminds me of Master Roshi from Dragon Ball Z.
Oh.
And then I remembered Roshi's laugh. Even though Roshi's laugh is perverted, he's like and all that. If anybody who watched the original Dragon Ball specifically, but I'm like, this guy's not perverted. This guy's a villain. This guy's a sidekick. So I was
Yeah.
like, let's think of that. So I thought of every sidekick I could think of. Specifically, when I think of sidekick, I think of what's his name, N Jin from Crash Bandicoot. So a little
Mm.
bit of that, a little bit of this, and I was like, okay, this is what came out. And for some reason, I like to sound creepy when I do some villains. So I guess that worked somehow.
Yeah. Your
And
voice
they were like,
fits.
okay, we. And so thank you, Hutch.
Yeah.
So I guess it works. But yeah,
Yeah, your performance was awesome. I think your voice is
I
fits for those
appreciate it.
types of
Appreciate
villains, like the types of villains that are like weird and like are like sidekicks based, or not just sidekicks, like just villains that have like a very strange personality. You know what I mean? I think,
Yeah, I get what you
yeah,
mean. I get what you mean. Maybe like a mad scientist or something.
exactly. You can nail that tone. I think that's what you do really well. And so my though my methods are very different actually when it comes to auditioning. You are
Mm-hmm.
as I've said. I think we've spoken about this before. You are a more technical actor. You've taken classes. You know the technical side of voiceover. You think about you analyze the character before you do anything.
Okay.
But me, what I do, what I
Oh,
did
okay. I got you.
what I did for the audition is, or what I do for most auditions that are big, and like basically this is my process really, is I do the first take. I
Mm-hmm.
always do a first take. I don't really. I'm not a person that is good at studying a character or like just basically the technical
Okay.
side of it. I'm not very good at that. But what I'm good at is
Gotcha.
I can hone in instinctually on the character slowly through doing multiple takes. I can
Okay.
get yeah, I can get into the mindset of the
Ah.
character.
So you
Yeah,
start to get a feel for the character.
exactly. It doesn't have to be the same session. It can be like
Of
different
course.
sessions even. Because like but what I do is I would record the first take, and then the next session I notice, oh, this is what's wrong with it. And then I listen to it right before I record, and then I try to record a take that's better. Like that sounds better. Like it just I don't think about it.
Okay.
I don't think like, oh, this is why it sounds bad. I can't.
Uh,
I'm like terrible at that. I'm terrible at like
oh, you,
yeah.
you just keep going with it until you. Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. It's a different appro Yeah, we all have different techniques. I guess whatever works for you works pretty much. Like
100%,
as they
yeah.
say, like experimentation, and then you find this is the best technique.
I've done
Awesome,
that
man.
since the start. I would, but the thing is, that is a good method, but it's not as reliable as you would want it to be. Because obviously, I'm just following my instinct at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, what does this sound
Right.
right? How like, and then if it's an audition that I can send to people and it's not under like an NDA or anything, I would send it to my friends or to my colleagues, and I'd be like, what do you
Ah.
think about this? And yeah, that's really my problem because I'm not very good at like analyzing the audition myself, and I do like 4 takes,
Ah.
like sometimes it's separate sessions to get the right audition for a project. If it's like a really big project, I will do like multiple like at multiple audition sessions. I will do auditions. You know what I mean? So yeah,
Okay. I think sometimes it does work. This reminds me of some instruction. I can't remember which instructor told me about this. That sometimes you could try to keep trying certain takes in a one sitting, and you're like you're not just getting it, or you're not getting the feel for what you're looking for. But then you try again later. And sometimes waiting and giving that space between one session and another is what you need to just get out of the mindset, then get back in, and you're
yeah.
like, okay, now I can get what I was looking for. Because sometimes it needs that time away from the booth. I haven't tried this. I should, but yeah, sometimes if you have time before a deadline of an audition, that's a pretty smart move. So nice.
Oh yeah, that's actually always what I do if there is time before a deadline, like you said. And so I did that for the audition for the characters that I did, which were Nizar and Jubair. I couldn't audition for Mus'ab at the time because what happened was I was trying to like shout in his voice, like he's a leader, so he shouts to the people.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, yeah. I remember that speech.
and my setup was limited at the time to an extent, and so like I just couldn't get it
Okay.
naturally flowing in a way, and so I like it was number one, it was
Mm-hmm.
peaking a little bit, it was peaking too much, and number two, my
Oh, I
microphone,
gotcha.
yeah, my microphone was in a place that was like making plosives. I did not have a pop filter. I didn't have a pop filter until like a month ago. I bought this pop filter a month ago. I've never had a pop filter. So
Oh, wow.
yeah, it didn't work for
Interesting.
me at the time. So I was like I'm going to leave this. If they like the other
But
auditions, yeah.
I want to say with all these detail that yeah, that sorry to cut you off. I'm saying with all these detail that you're sharing, it's actually really inspiring. You're sharing how you're building your journey, how you're I mean, pun intended, journey your journey. So yeah, how you're building your journey with voiceover, with every step you're taking, and you're like, despite that struggle, you're like you're doing this. Despite I faced that, I'm still doing this. So and eventually you booked the part. You got a part in the
Yeah, man.
movie. So that just shows that no matter like if we're gonna get into that, no matter what circumstances you're in, you could still get there. You could still do it. I mean, like me and you are prime examples of how. I don't mean to go off topic. How a lot of people might be thinking, oh, I have to move to LA or I have to move to
Exactly.
Texas in order to audition for so and so video game or so and so anime or whatever gig it is. Or like, of course, yeah, the opportunities, certain opportunities will be higher there, But still, even if you move there, I'm not trying to discourage people, but it's not 100% chance that you will book these big auditions.
True.
Sometimes when you go there, you need like a lot of years of building up that experience, building up, but you still got to put in the work. So no matter where you are, you got to put in the work. No matter where you are, it's not the circumstances that determine how successful you are. Some people could be like living on Pluto and they still get a really good gig, while someone who's living right next to an amazing studio then doesn't get it. So it's not, it's awesome to hear stories like yours and to hear stories like this that people are like, hey, I did it and I worked despite not having the most expensive equipment and most expensive everything, but I was still able to do it. Like me and you were just talking about this before we started the podcast. Like
Yeah.
some examples of some struggles we go through is, for instance, background noise. I was just telling you sorry about the dogs barking, and you're saying you have neighbors with kids screaming,
Yeah.
things like that.
They're still
We're
going
like,
on right
but
now, by the
still,
way.
we find a way to record.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Indeed.
so there you go. I mean, we still find a way to do this podcast, to record in a session. To some people, like when you said you didn't get a pop filter except recently, some people they get a sock and they put it on their microphone and it kind of works.
Yeah.
So it happens. I took a class before with I think his name was Jonah Scott, and he said that this was peak COVID time. He recorded Attack on Titan in he showed us his makeshift booth, which was a bunch of, it wasn't pillows, it was these giant stuffed animals he put on
Oh
top
my
of each other,
God.
and he kind of covered them with this blanket, and it worked. And I was like, wow, that's even smaller and tighter than my booth. And it
Yeah.
worked for Attack on Titan. I was like, "Are you serious?" So that's fascinating. It's not all about that. I get there's the stigma that, oh, you have to be in studio. I get it that it's a lot of extra work for the audio engineers. I get
True.
it that they have to put all these layers of sound and editing and so on. But still, it's doable. Remote work is a thing. People can do it as long as they have a decent sound treatment, the skills that they worked on to reach, and a decent microphone. I'm not saying you got to get the Nauman TLM 103 and pay like a gajillion dollars. No, you could get a decent microphone and you can
That's
make it.
$2,500. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I just remember it's a pretty big price, especially after the currency conversion. So yeah,
It's crazy. We are definitely a testament to that. And the thing is,
yeah,
I'm in Iraq. I'm in Baghdad, Iraq. You're in Egypt right now, and we
Yeah.
have been able to book incredible jobs, like remotely,
Yeah,
which is just amazing. Yeah, it's jobs like
definitely.
the journey and work like the journey that proves that we can do this. You know, it
Yeah,
is really awesome. And
I agree.
like
I
getting
agree.
back to what I was doing, I basically I sent in that audition and they got back to me like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yo, you can do the Abdul Muttalib, like you can do the Abdul
That's
Muttalib
awesome.
audition," and I took another 3 days of takes
Wow.
to send them the
Nice.
audition. Yeah. What I did basically was I recorded my first take and then I overlaid it on the
Mm-hmm.
actual like audition material that they sent me for the dubbing, and so I tried as my best to sync
Oh,
it up.
yeah, okay.
Yeah,
That I actually I do that
and
sometimes to try to
mhm.
see how it fits. Nice.
It's not. I actually didn't try to like dub over it while I was recording. I just spoke the lines
Okay.
and then I overlaid the lines on the character, and then to see
Yeah,
how
I
much it
get you.
fit Abdul Muttalib. And I
Nice.
did like
Nice.
3 takes of that over like a few days while like analyzing what I should do and stuff like that. And then I sent it in. I was like,
That's
"Oh
really
God,
awesome.
please, please, please." And
You're
I
like,
didn't really
yeah, let
expect
me know.
anything. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't really expect anything at the
That's
time.
the best thing. Best thing. Put no expectations.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always try to send and like try to forget about it at least, and not completely forget about it, but just put it to the back of my mind.
Same here. Same
Yeah,
here
man.
as well. Same here.
And like a month later, like you said, I got an email, and this was like I think 2 a.m. for me when I got the email, and I knew it. I felt it. I
Oh,
felt
really?
it. I was like, this email is gonna be this. Like it felt special. Like it just as soon as I got the notification,
Nice.
yeah, and I saw it and I was like, I immediately turned on this song called "Waves" by Kanye West, and I just blasted them on full and I started dancing.
Nice.
I just started dancing in my room.
That's awesome,
Yeah,
man.
man.
That's awesome.
It was a really cool moment.
That reminds me of what's his name? I forgot the actor's name. Oh, Hayden Christensen, the actor who did Anakin in Star Wars, the prequel
Oh yeah.
movies, and recently in some of the TV shows. When he found out that he was cast in Star Wars, he was like, I think he was 21 at the time, or maybe younger. He said that yeah, he was with his roommate, and they had these fake lightsabers, and they were just dancing and going crazy in his room. He only told him, and they were like celebrating like crazy. So that's that reminded me of
That's
that.
awesome. That's so cool. And then like you said, an audio engineer evaluated my audio like he did for yours, and I was
Nice.
very nervous because I had to. I think I don't remember if I did two audio tests. I think it was just one because they were telling me you have to connect on Source Connect now. You have to be connected on an Ethernet cable, and I had
Okay.
to have like basically I
Yeah.
had to connect my laptop monitor to my phone so I can get the live dubbing onto a screen on my phone because my booth is too small for a laptop. So that was crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Mhm.
you recorded through your phone the
No, no,
session,
no, no.
like the screen, I
Oh yeah.
mean.
Well, how do I explain this? Basically, let me explain what I did to be able to dub the movie. First of all, I got a long Ethernet
Okay.
cable from the router to my room to my laptop.
Same here. It's like
Mhm.
10 feet or 20 feet long.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure how long the one I got. Maybe 10 meters, I think. The one that I got.
Or meters. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I used the wrong unit. Meters. Yeah. My
Yeah.
bad.
And basically, I got a long USB-C cable that I connected to my laptop, and then I ran that cable all the way to my phone
Okay.
using some weird software, like some obscure software that you can find like basically nowhere that can mirror your laptop screen on your phone.
Okay.
Yeah, and it just it worked.
Wow.
It worked. Like there was just a
Wow, man.
tiny bit of delay,
That's awesome.
but it
That's
worked.
awesome.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
Holy
I w-
shit. That's that's really interesting,
I
man.
was so nervous because my setup is boxy and my microphone is an AT2020, which is like considered a starter XLR microphone. So I thought
But that's a good mic, man.
it is like a professional microphone. That's why I got cast for like so many jobs with it. They've seen my resume. They've seen that I have the microphone. It's not like I'm lying to them, and it's a professional microphone. It's still an XLR
Yeah, yeah,
microphone.
yeah.
And so yeah, the audio engineer got
Yeah.
in the call with me, and he said everything was good. So I was like, let's go. I was like, yeah,
Very good.
yeah, man. That's
Yeah, I know that feeling. Yeah, like when they told me like it was good and the booth, I was like in the back of my head, I was like, wait, is he joking with me? Is he serious? Because I was nervous. I was like, what is he gonna say? I don't have a professional booth. Like I only had like my booth. Like if you want me to describe it, it's kind of like strange. It's literally part of it is my room door, and I have two blankets over it, and the other part of it is my wall of my room, and I have these acoustic foams stuck to the wall with a glue
oh
gun,
wow.
and then above me is these two thin blankets, and below me is also a blanket, how am I holding up the blanket at top? I have one of those clothes hanger thingies that I don't use, so I use that to hold it up, and the rest of the blanket I literally nailed it to the wall. So I just used what I had around the house, except the acoustic foam. To be honest, I ordered that off of Amazon. But everything else, I was like, okay, what do I got? Let me make this thing happen. So, and then it kind of worked after a lot of trial and error. And yeah, I was just saying you try out different angles of different directions of where your microphone is, where you're facing. I think how you mentioned before, where you we discussed this, how sometimes you would be sitting down or standing up in the booth. Standing up is usually optimal because, of course, like usually the breathing is better. But sometimes when you
Mm.
stand for very long sessions, if you can do it while sitting, I advise you to do it while sitting because if it's a long class or a very long session, unless if you take breaks, sit a while, stand a while, depending on what you're doing. If you can do both, that's better. So yeah, you just keep trying. Like it's all about like I love to use the metaphor of voiceover and cooking in the kitchen are very
Mm.
similar. Like when somebody asks you, I want to be a voice actor or how can I be a good voice actor? There's no one answer to that. And we really don't know how you can be a good voice actor because it's different from one person to another. When you go in the kitchen, you have no idea how to cook. You don't know how that food is made. So they tell you follow these steps. But if you follow and it's not from day one that you're going to have an amazing meal, but you keep trying over and over, and then you come up with your own recipe, maybe, and you come up with your own techniques, your own spices, your own salt, your own pepper, your own whatever it is, and you come out with, oh, this is the meal the way I made it. So it's your flavor and your technique, and you improve the more you try and the more you practice. So the only way to improve is to practice. So that's pretty much same thing with equipment as well. The best thing about it, there's a lot of DIY techniques. A lot of things do it yourself you can do on your own. So yeah.
Hmm. I agree. I think for me, I started, as I talked about this in the last episode. I started with just my phone, like my phone microphone, and basically I was recording
Nice.
on a couch, like on the couch, and that's how I started. So I think anyone can start in any way in voice acting, and everyone will have their own method to an approach to acting, just like how different actors have different approaches to different
True.
characters. It's different approaches to voice acting. That's
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 true.
just totally the same thing. And yeah, man, it's it's
Okay.
it's really awesome how voice acting like brought us together because you messaged me about the movie, and we were waiting so
Yeah.
long after recording it. The recording
Yep.
we were cast in like October, and the recording was in March of the next year.
It took a while.
Yeah, we were
Yep.
waiting on the movie to release for like as you said 6 months, I think, or no, was it 6? When did it drop in September?
Yeah, for quite a while. I think let's say I recorded in February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Yeah, 6, 7 months. 6, 7
Yeah,
months.
6, 7 months for the movie to drop, and when it dropped, bro, we were so hyped. I immediately like
I
ran.
remember. I
Yeah,
remember.
and got the
we're,
clips. I got
we're
the clips
like, holy
immediately.
cow, it's out.
Yeah, man, I was
Same here. Same
overjoyed.
here. I was like, I gotta add this to my demo.
It was amazing, man. It was
Yeah,
awesome.
it's hype, man. It's hype. Something to always be proud of. I agree.
I hope we can experience that in a future project again because it is really cool to be excited for a project that
Oh,
much.
same here, man.
Yeah, man. And I was gonna ask you a question, which is, I noticed since we first met,
Mm-hmm.
your English is really, really good.
Oh, thank you.
And like people always ask me about my English, so I want to ask you about your English. How do you have a North American accent?
Okay.
Like what happened? What's going on? What's going on, man?
All right. So, since I've been asked this question as well, like 50 quadrillion times in the past 20 something years, here's how how it is. I was born in Egypt, and I lived here until I was like 3 or 4 years old. That was until 1994. Then I moved to the United States in the state of Florida,
Mm.
Sunshine State. I lived there for like 6 years, 6 years and a little bit, and came back in year 2000. So when I went there, I was super young, so I was still young enough to pick up like any language in the world. So I picked up, yeah, the North American accent, and I think maybe I'd like to consider it neutral. Maybe some people would think I have an accent. I don't know, but I don't have a Southern accent, even though I lived in the South. But sometimes, if you want me to go to a Southern accent,
Mm.
sometimes I could work. Sometimes I could switch to that. But anyways, so I came back in year 2000. I've been here ever since. Maybe that would lead into another question of how did I keep my English for the past 23 years as like living in an Arab country where we speak Arabic.
Oh yeah.
Because ever since like I guess I was in school, I always looked for those friends that spoke fluent English, and I spoke to them. I think it was some of my teachers as well, because I was always in what we call in Egypt international schools, where there is the curriculum is in English. Because I grew up learning everything in English, so moving to Egypt, it would have been really hard to switch to education being all in Arabic. So my parents put me in schools where I did still use English. The only subjects that were Arabic were Arabic, the subject of Arabic and religion, but everything else was English. So I
Oh
just
yeah.
was always had friends that spoke English. Even in college, I have friends that I'm still in touch with until now. We speak English. So yeah, it's pretty much living in the U.S., maintaining the language until now. Type of media I consume. At least me specifically, not everyone that lived abroad and lives in Egypt would be like this, but me, I always consume like movies in English, anime in the past, let's say 7, 8 years, video
Yeah.
games in English. So a lot of sources of the language I've always been exposed to, and I always use in my daily life. So yeah, I guess that helped me out to keep it. Even though that's why a lot of people online when they don't see my face or see my name, they'll be like they would never guess where I'm from, which is kind of fun sometimes.
Yeah. Same goes for me. Like, no, I didn't. My story is very different, but the thing about being online, no one would guess
Hmm.
that neither either of us are in the Middle East or are
True.
Arabs in general. Um,
True.
like people used to
That's
think
true.
I was like a very white guy, like just a white dude, like way back then. But now I have a
Really?
yeah,
Okay.
I just have a very typical North American accent.
That's
Uh,
interesting.
and so for me,
Yeah.
a lot of people like you, like it happens to you. A lot of people ask me, "How do you speak English so well?" And a lot of people assume that
Hmm.
I also like I traveled to
Yeah.
the U.S. and I lived there for a while, or any European country or
Oh, you don't
something
have
like
to.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but for me, actually,
Hmm.
I don't know what it is. I remembered this the other day. It's crazy. I remembered this the other day when I was like a
Hmm.
really like a little kid. I think I don't know what it was. Maybe it was something on the
Hmm.
TV that instilled or inspired this in me. But I used to like. I remember I recorded a video on my little Nokia phone of a stick figure that I drew on the paper, and
Hmm.
I was just pointing the phone on it, and I was like speaking gibberish. I was like, like trying to speak English at that age. I was like a young kid.
Okay.
Yeah, and that was really the like the beginnings of it. And I don't know. No one around me actually spoke
But
English like this.
that's actually nice. Yeah, that's actually I guess that was your mind translating what it was hearing and actually turning it into something. And obviously it turned into English. It wasn't just gibberish. So
Yeah,
nice.
it's really cool. Like that how my brain pieced it all together somehow, and like actually got like the American accent as well, not just the language. It's crazy. And
Yeah,
people around me,
that's awesome, man.
I didn't have family that like actually spoke English like I do. Like I like one of them, and he didn't even
Oh,
speak English that often. It was just me. I was just like I just I liked English, I
wow.
guess, as a kid, and I just grew up with it, and I just kept learning and learning and learning. Like at some point when I was like 10 or something, my friends in the neighborhood were like, "Show us, you gotta show us your ID, bro. Are you American? You gotta be American."
They don't believe you?
Yeah, yeah, and
They're
mhm.
like, what's your real name, man? Where are you from? Like, come on.
I was a secret agent, you know what I mean? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
it was crazy. It's crazy that I'm able to learn English like this, and what I this is still something within me that I always try to become a better
Hmm.
speaker in English, in Arabic, in every single way.
Nice.
I always try to speak more in a more articulate way. I always try to speak in a more professional and
Nice.
proper way, and to communicate things in a better way. I think I'm very good at like at least conveying what I feel or something that I'm thinking. Is I'm good at putting it
That's really
into
awesome.
words. Yeah, it's really cool that I'm able like it helps with my relationships with my friends or my family or like romantic relationships. I can actually like I'm
Nice.
like, "Yo, this is what I mean. This is what I feel right now." Uh yeah.
Yeah, such precision and passion really does make it go a long way.
100%, 100%. It's just I would say it's something that was instilled in me, and I'm really glad it is because it's very unique. You don't see often people who never lived in like the U.S. or anything to have an American accent somehow. So it's just really cool. I'm just thank God
That
that I have
I
this.
I guess I would
Hmm.
agree with you, but also disagree because I used to think the same way when I was much younger. I used to think, oh, it's only a few of us, like in whatever country you'd be in, Arabic speaking countries, since that's what we're talking about. And it'd be like, oh, it's only a few people. I used to think it's like just 100 people in the entire country that speak fluently, and everybody else just doesn't know the language. But I was sorely mistaken. Like there are a lot of people that are in, let's say, in the Middle East that speak very fluent
I agree.
English, and because
Mhm.
and they have very different stories. Some are actually. I have a friend that has a very similar story to yours. Yeah, he used to live in Saudi Arabia, and in school, most people he knew didn't speak very well. But because he also loved the language and he read a lot of books, he watched a lot
Mm.
of shows that had good English, and he liked the language as well. Those two parts are very common. He's like, yeah, and that's what helped him to speak very fluently, and he's never been to an English speaking country. So it really works if you want to get better at something, and especially when you start at a super young age, it gets you there. So that's a really awesome story.
Yeah, man, and I think definitely fluency is not uncommon. It is actually, I would say, it is like it is. There's a lot of people. Like I have a lot of friends that have just been in Iraq their entire lives, or haven't really been to an English speaking country, and still have
Yeah,
are very fluent at
same
English,
here.
are very very good at the language. But the thing is,
True.
what I'm really thankful for, and this is something that I will always be thankful for, is that I have the accent, is because I would have never considered voice acting
Yeah.
if I didn't have this accent. If I wasn't able to speak in a North American accent.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it just really allowed me to like be able to connect to people in other countries and work
Nice.
in like Western markets and in American markets. And that's really cool. That's the thing that I'll always be thankful for, man. And it's really
Yeah, it
cool to
all.
hear your story and how you were able to maintain the language even though you came back to Egypt.
Thank you. Yeah, it's an experience. It opens a lot of doorways. Like the more languages you know, of course, excuse me, the more uh avenues you have. And I was told this. They're saying like if you just speak one language in voiceover, it's you can get jobs, but the more languages you know, the more opportunities you have. That's what may give you a leg up on other people because there's always a lot of competition in the industry, and there's thousands, maybe millions of us around the world. So yeah, it's something that can really help if you in our case since we were bilingual, that would definitely help. So yeah,
100%. We get jobs that are like translation. We get jobs that are dubbing in other languages. We get jobs. It's just a lot of more
true,
opportunities for people who are bilingual. And I think learning another language in any
hmm,
avenue is just very important, especially big languages or
true,
like first world languages like Arabic and English are very, very important to both master.
of course,
Yeah,
of course.
and so I want to get into the next topic, which is like how did you start
Okay.
voice acting? I think you told me you started voice acting like 8 years ago. Like, what
Oh
happened? What is
wow.
your inspiration?
All right, let's give you the long version, not the short version. So,
Sure.
voice acting, like honestly, before 2010, I'll tell you why I'm mentioning 2010. Before 2010, I did just occasionally hear about voice acting. I knew there was something called voice acting, but I never really thought
Mm.
about pursuing it or anything. I just like because mainly I played video games. I was a gamer long before I was a big anime fan, and I was like, "Oh, this person does this character. That's pretty awesome." And that was it. And I was like, "Oh, this is cool," and that's it. And
Oh, no
then
problem.
2010, when I was in college, I majored in mass communications. One of my colleagues, he was a
Mm.
director of, I guess, what's equivalent to a school play. So one time they were having like these auditions to be part of the play. So I told him, no, I'm not going to join the play because honestly, I was like focusing on my studies. I didn't think I would be able to balance between acting and studying at the time. I was like, maybe it would be fun. But he's like, just attend. I was like, okay, sure. So I attended. I saw what people were doing. It was pretty interesting. They were doing these certain techniques or certain activities. And
Mm.
he heard me. This might sound weird. I usually do until now I sometimes do this. I do sound effects and scenes from shows and movies that I've watched. I just like to copy them while I'm on the go, specifically when I'm around my
Oh, that's
friends. Like
interesting.
I would copy stuff from Pokemon. I would copy stuff from whatever movie, or I love to copy Ace Ventura all the time as much as I can. Jim Carrey. So yeah, so he's like, oh, and the way he looked at it, he didn't think it was weird. He was like, oh, I'm gonna believe you. This is a talent. I was like, what? What is this guy talking about? What talent?
Oh,
I'm just doing sound effects. So he looked at it in a different
yeah.
way. He's like, dude, no, you should consider this as a talent. So I started thinking of, okay, acting. How can I pursue this? So I went home that day and I started teaching myself how to use Windows Movie Maker, my very first editing software for video
Oh,
editing.
wow.
And I got a scene from, I remember it was, no, my first video was a bunch of random scenes, for one from Terminator, one from ET, and other stuff. I can't remember. And I added my voice to it. But the first actual scene I dubbed over as a fan dub was from the movie A Few Good Men between Tom Cruise and Jack
Oh,
Nicholson. I
interesting.
love that scene. It was really well performed by Jack Nicholson and of course Tom, but Jack Nicholson specifically was like, "You can't handle the truth." Yeah, that guy. But I can't go 100% now, so
Oh,
my
yeah.
voice is kind of dead. But yeah. So I did it, and it was pretty interesting. So ever since, I just kept practicing for a few years, only doing scenes like that. But even though it might sound like, oh, you're just practicing, it might seem like a hobby. But what I was doing, I was building up a lot of technical skills, how to edit. I got better at editing. I moved from Movie Maker to something called Cyberlink Power Director. I used to use this weird audio recording software called Fox Audio Recorder, and I used to use my
Mm.
headphone mic, which of course was terrible quality, but it was a start.
Oh, yeah.
And then I bought this a little while later, like 6 months later. I bought this desktop mic, which was still terrible quality, but again, I
Yeah.
used what I had and I kept trying to improve with editing. Then that also went into the era in 2013 where I used to make YouTube videos and I used to post my videos and editing got a little better. Syncing audio with the video that took time for a person to develop. The ear for when like the mouth flaps of the characters,
Oh,
whether it's live
yeah.
action or animation.
Definitely.
Yeah, it takes time to be able to make it exact as you want it. Then I think it was like 2 years later, where I was like, I got what's it called, Adobe Premiere Pro, which is a way better editor in my opinion than Cyberlink.
100%. Yeah.
I tried Sony Vegas, but honestly, I'm not a fan of Sony Vegas. um,
That's interesting.
but yeah, so
Mm.
I got better. Yeah, thanks, thanks. I got better at doing that. Microphone wise, I just kept making videos like that for quite like I guess 3 years, and then I wanted to get a professional mic. I was like, okay, I need to know what to do. I want to get into this field. I started really enjoying trying to emulate what I hear from these performances. Like I got scenes from not just anime. Let's say the movie The Matrix. There was a scene where what's his name, Agent Smith was interrogating Morpheus. I fell in love with Hugo Weaving's performance. I love what he did as that character. I got a scene from the game Far Cry 3, Voss, for those who are familiar with Michael Mondo's work.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's like, yeah, he's like, what was his famous line? I forgot. It's something about doing the same
Do you
thing
know the
over and
definition of
over again.
insanity?
Yeah, the definition of insanity, exactly. So it was things like that. That's when it was those scenes that made me fall in love with villains, which is a completely different story. I don't want to get into now.
Oh,
But
nice.
which is actually I think the buildup of what led to Hellcat. But anyways, um, so yeah,
Yeah.
that was with editing, and then I got my first professional mic, which was a Yeti USB mic in 2000. What was it? 17, something like yeah,
Nice.
2017. And then I was trying to take classes. I couldn't afford them yet at the time because I was a student. I didn't have a job. But then by 2017, I
Yeah.
finally was able to take my first class in the end of 2017 with Crispin Freeman. And it was really, really awesome. It just started to open my eyes on where I stood as a voice actor, what I need to do as a voice actor. And I had a wrong assumption at the time. I thought, oh, I'm going to take one class and then that's it. I know what to do. I know where I need to go in voiceover. But
That is very naive.
I
Yeah.
was,
Same for me.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. We start somewhere. So I went in and I was like, oh, okay, this is just a start. This is just like a catapult just to see where
Yeah.
you go from there. So he really opened my eyes on script reading. He's the one that put in my head that I could do villains because I remember he had a technique where before we start our session, he sends these sides or these script the
Oh,
script
yeah.
itself, a random script, and he's like, read this in your natural voice because yeah, in voiceover, for our non-voiceover listeners, either your authentic or natural voice is one of the most important things. You need to get
Indeed.
used to
Yeah.
using yeah, your ordinary voice. So when I read it in my natural voice, he then casts you as a character that you're going to do in class. So he cast me as Syndrome from The Incredibles, and I was like, really? Syndrome? I never thought of casting myself as a villain. So when I did
Ooh, that's
that, I was like, okay,
interesting.
this is fun. This is yeah. It was. I actually forgot about this. I just remember now. All thanks to Crispin that I started liking
Mm,
villains more, and I was like, I could be a villain. Okay, why not? Um, so yeah, that was Crispin.
that's so
Long story
cool.
short, I took. Thank you, man. I took classes with other teachers like Steve Bloom, with Chuck Huber. I took with Chuck Huber for quite a while. Then I started trying out different avenues of voiceover, not just character work. I tried to take classes in commercial work with Brent Allen Hagel. I took an audiobook class with Diva Marie, which is really good, by the way. I recommend it if you want to get into audiobooks. I tried many different things.
Oh,
It's like
definitely I'm gonna
testing the
consider
waters
that.
here and there.
I was gonna say for the audiobook class, I'm definitely gonna consider that. I do want to get into that genre very soon.
Yeah, it's really good. Audiobooks, like, the if you really want to go deeper into it, it is like quite the dedication, quite the undertaking. So especially if they're novels, if you're
Yeah.
narrating a 300-page or 500-page novel, but if you can manage the time, if you can manage the effort and manage the prep, because the prep work is a lot, and the work is a lot. Some people are okay with it and they love it. Other people are like, no, they don't. There's not enough pay with the amount of work, or some people are like, no, time wise. So yeah, there's a pros and cons to it, just like every field of any job in the world or any voiceover field. But yeah,
Indeed.
but sorry, like, go get back on topic. Yeah, so I took classes with many different people, and until now, as much as I can, I try to take classes with different studios. I upgraded my setup from USB to XLR back in 2019, when I got my, like, the Focusrite 2i2 setup, second generation, with the CM25 mic. Recently, I upgraded to the Scarlett Solo preamp because, yeah, my other preamp just died, which
Nice.
was terrible. Um,
Oh no, that's not
yeah,
nice.
so
The pre-app dying.
it's
Yeah.
not nice. It's not nice. I mean, shit happens, as they say. But yeah,
Yeah.
so it's pretty much a process of taking different classes, getting in touch with more people in the community. I started to make some friends on Instagram when I started to post a lot of my fan dub videos that I used to make, and a lot of people and we started to collab with other people that also have professional setups, or some people somehow, I don't know how they do it. They record off their phone and it sounds really good. No idea how they do it, but they do it somehow. Um, uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, so that was pretty interesting and opened up the community where I ran into, for instance, the amazing Jun Yoon. That's how I met him, through Instagram,
Oh, amazing.
and yeah, and other amazing names. So yeah, pretty much I try to audition as often as I can, but getting into voiceover, and because I have a day job. For those of you who don't know, I work as a teacher as well, a school teacher. I teach world history.
Indeed. Yeah.
So I try, if I can't audition throughout the week, I audition on Thursday or Friday. And if I don't do that, I at least, like, as often as I can. It's not impossible. Believe me, I know how hard it is to have a full-time job. But yeah, it's doable. If you want to find time, you will make time. If I don't audition at night, I audition in the morning. So yeah, sorry, that's a super long answer, but yeah.
Oh no, of course, man. That's really cool that you're telling your story like this. And I didn't know you were a history teacher. That's very interesting and really cool.
Yeah, we teach middle school and high school. We talk about, like, a variety of topics.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And yeah, I think our beginnings are yeah, getting back to the point where you said like you started out, someone told you that you did like the sound effects thing for video games or like shows and stuff like that very
Mm-hmm.
well. For me, actually, what I
Mm-hmm.
used to do is I used to I told this story in the last podcast. Voice acting. I've always loved voice acting. One time I did a Kratos impression when I was very little,
Okay.
and it wasn't very good.
Nice.
But what I did
Okay.
was at the time was I used to do a lot of impressions of celebrities. Mostly actually Will
Ah,
Smith. I used to do a Will Smith impression at school. I just used to.
oh,
It was
really?
the weirdest thing. Yeah,
Nice.
I was like, yeah, it's rewind time or something. Just all those
Okay.
memes at the time. And yeah, that's really
Nice.
what introduced my friends to the voice acting side of me. So they were like, "Oh, this is interesting.
Okay.
You can actually do impressions and stuff like that." And yeah, basically we did a David Attenborough parody one time, and that was like my first venture into like
Oh,
yeah, my first venture into like the narration thing or the narration side. It was just really for fun, but it did give me inspiration to try out the
nice.
field. And then in 2020, I started like doing parody videos and stuff like that. And then I immediately got into voice acting. And yeah, that's really how I started.
Oh,
Yeah.
did you like
Mhm.
share these videos on a platform, or you just did them on your own for fun?
Oh, I shared them on YouTube. I sent them to so many of my friends, but they're unlisted now.
Ah,
I can give you an exclusive look into
no, no problem.
those terrible terrible vaulted videos.
Sure, I could show you my 10-year-old Let's Play videos of video games back then.
Oh, hell yeah! Let's do that after the podcast. That sounds amazing.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
I told the story in more details on the first episode, but and I don't
Uh-huh.
want to repeat myself. So,
No,
yeah,
it's okay.
that's really my start in voiceover is very simple. And it's just I'm glad that I got to the point that I am at right now, where I can
Nice.
like record stuff with professional equipment, even though it's still in a wooden closet. Like this is I'm still right. I'm in front of the wooden closet that I recorded a Coca-Cola commercial, Zane telecom
Nice.
commercial, an anime film, and it's just really cool. This thing is gonna be like an antique
Nice.
piece for me. I'm gonna keep this until the day I die. It's just it's my humble beginnings here. I was gonna ask you a question related to that whole point is how did you how would you say you got like your biggest opportunities? Like how do you market yourself? And like do you do cold calls? How do you find the like the directors
um
and stuff like that to work with? And do you usually reach out for connections?
okay, so I guess the way I marketed myself before, honestly, I didn't market myself at all. I didn't even know how to. I'm still learning that process, but what I do try to do. Number one, Twitter, like hopefully it still stays the same because it keeps changing all the time. But Twitter is a major
Oh
source.
yeah,
That's
Elon
that's
Musk
how I
is
got.
destroying Twitter right
Yeah,
now.
Elon Musk, exactly. X. I'm not gonna call it X to be honest. It's Twitter.
Yeah,
So
no one's gonna
yeah,
call it
Twitter is
X, man.
changing a lot. um, but Twitter is a source. Like specifically, there's the page I forgot what the title is. RT retweet or something or RTVA retweet.
Oh yeah,
I think
VA
it's run. It was
VA casting retweet.
yeah, yeah, that's a really awesome page for I think it was I can't remember the exact names that who are running it, but they are really awesome people to be doing that and to be volunteering to provide all those casting calls in one place or a lot of them
It's
in one place for
incredible,
people
yeah.
to check out. Yeah, so those are really useful. That's a big source of my casting calls. But I sometimes I go and dig into a website called voiceactingforums.net, which was made by the amazing Kira Buckland. It has free auditions. You go in. I mean, auditions are always free. Like if somebody tells you to pay to audition,
Yeah,
don't audition. Auditions are free. So yeah, that's one
100%,
source.
yeah.
Another source was a lot of Discord servers. Discord is a really important source for voice actors. Honestly, I never used Discord before becoming a voice actor, except super rarely. Like I used to play these strategy games years ago when I was like 13 or 15. But that's it. I never really used Discord. But then I started using it with all these different servers. Like there's quite a number of them. Whoever needs the source of those, I can send them over. Some of them are dedicated to certain classes. Like one of the techniques where I try to market myself was usually through the classes I take. Like I take classes with Sound On Studio, Real Voice LA. I used to take with Bloomvox Studios, so Steve Bloom. Things like that. Classes really helped, but don't always depend on classes, meaning if you can't take the class, it's not the end of the world. The reason why I'm saying that is because recently, some people go through this, a lot of people go through this, that you can't always afford classes. I can't afford it as much as I used to. Like now I take a
Oh
class
yeah.
once every 3, 4 months because, yeah, economy in my country is not the best. But yeah, still, classes is one thing.
Same here for Iraq.
Yeah, you can relate. Another thing is emailing. I did start to email for the past 6, 7 months, maybe more. I started to send out emails because at first I was like, I was like in my head, I was like, really, it's okay to just send emails? I'm not disturbing people. I'm not gonna, am I being unprofessional? That's what I used to think. But it depends on like if they have a
Yeah.
business email and it's out there on their website. I mean, you can officially send them an email. So there are different for instance, studios. I would send emails to and tell them if you would like to work together, here is my website, here is my resume, here's my demo, and I send it out. And I have like a pretty detailed introduction of or overview of my work. Then I started to also look for different game developer studios. Some of them are indie studios. I actually joined different Facebook groups of indie developers, and I try to find what games they worked on. I go on Steam to find their game. Then they have their studio name. I look up their studio, find their email, send them an email. And this has actually gotten me like 2 or 3 auditions before. That's one way. Like if you
That's a
want to
very good
work in
method. Yeah.
video game voiceover. And anime, it depends. Like if you're remote, it depends on the rosters you try to join. I would tell you there's Coca Sound, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, by Brittany Lotta and Matt. I'm sorry, I forgot his last name. Matt Shipman. Matt Shipman. They have the list you can join. You can join the roster, apply, and send. If you have a solid demo, if you have a website, send it in. Another one is Sound Cadence Studio. This with Amber Lee Connors, really really amazing. What else? There's other rosters out there. So try to find those different rosters. All of them are actually compiled in a specific source. I think was made by Sam Slade and Marcus Rothenberg. Really, really beneficial Excel sheet with a lot of different websites where you can audition and send in your information. Sometimes this is a technique I do, where I sometimes see people's announcements. Sorry, guys, I piggyback off of some announcements, and you could they probably people
Oh
probably do that with other people. They find that, oh, I got this
yeah.
gig with this studio. I go to the studio, I check out their email, and I send them my stuff. I was like, okay, let me try to get a shot at this.
That's
So
awesome.
maybe it's a shot in the dark, but maybe you never know. So yeah, I try to look for different studios either through my friends on Twitter or Instagram, or just whoever I follow. I follow over literally 4,000 people on Twitter, a couple thousand people on Instagram. So I try to use that to market myself. Some people go as far as to try to create content where they create either reels or videos on TikTok or Instagram. But I do not advise you to go to TikTok because there was that controversy that they're using people's information or sound for AI and stuff. So that's a completely different story.
Yeah.
But they create reels or they create YouTube videos to try to promote for themselves. If you have the time and energy for that, do it. You're gonna get more exposure to who you are. Casting has happened before. I've heard this on different seminars I've attended, that there have been people that have been cast this way, sometimes through Clubhouse, where people enter different communities and they interact and they're like, okay, I've heard this person, I know this person exists, I want to cast them. I was actually one time in a session in Clubhouse, and this someone like left the session and then came back, and he's like, there was this girl, she was from this background and she was in this session. I have a job for her. I want to cast her. Do you know where she is? And
Oh
literally they were
wow.
looking for her and he found her, and I was like, wow, just because of Clubhouse he's looking for her or wants to cast her. And that was really interesting. It happened like right in front of me. So you never know how or where or when you can get cast. Sometimes you could get cast if people recommend each other, which is something I advise and something I love about the voiceover community, is that people are really helpful to one another. I have been cast before because of recommendations by other people. Can't talk about it yet because it's still under NDA, but I have been cast. You guys know yourselves. You guys are amazing. I will be talking about it when it's announced. That people would like, I get an email and they're like, "Oh, we want to cast you in this, and you're recommended by this and this." I was like, "What? Really? That's awesome." So it also makes you want to help people as well. So you're like, well, "Come on, it's we're helping each other out. We're trying to push each other forward." That's another thing. So Discord is a source of trying to promote myself, sending emails, a lot of emails, uh, trying to promote, share my demo perhaps on Twitter, on Instagram from time to time. Uh, yeah, so auditions, of course. Auditions are a very important source,
Yeah.
so people get to hear you perform. Um, but also keep in mind if you're promoting yourself and emailing people, there's an etiquette to that. Don't like if you send an email today and they don't respond, don't send another email tomorrow or even after a week. Wait a while. Wait at least like for me, I
A
wait a
hundred
month.
percent, I
I wait
agree.
3 months,
Yeah.
depending on. Yeah, depending on what it is, because we're all people at the end of the day. You don't want to be nagging people all the time, because just give it a chance, give it some time. There's a lot of people applying. It takes them a while to get through everything. And you never know. Maybe they'll consider you when you least expect them. One time I sent an email, my demo, in November of 2022. Then in just a month ago, I got a response. They're like, "Oh, thank you for sending it out." I was like, "What? Really? I forgot about this email." So, yeah. So that's something.
Yeah, that's very
So
interesting.
yeah,
Yeah, our marketing approaches for me right now, I would consider this podcast a part of me pushing my marketing into a new direction. Because I started off this podcast not because I wanted
nice.
to make like money off of it or I wanted to get like like famous off of it or anything. Like I wanted to make this podcast to number one, like share information with other people. I thought it was really cool, the idea of starting a podcast for that reason. And number two is to like put my name out there and meet new people through this podcast and get people
Okay,
on here that do different stuff like voice actors, just artists of different fields,
nice.
people that are really cool. I just want to get them on this podcast and I want to talk about stuff with them. Um, and yeah, that's the main reason that I
Very
started
nice.
this podcast is to basically make connections and meet people. And that's really the biggest marketing push that I'm doing right now. I'm actually right now. You said don't use
Mm,
TikTok. The thing is, I made a
yeah.
bunch of shorts and like reels and stuff like that. And I'm posting from like sections from the
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and I'm posting those on TikTok from the last episode. So it's only for
Okay.
marketing purposes. It's not like the voice actors that like duet
Ah,
those.
good luck, man.
Oh, thank you very much. It's not like the voice actors that duet other like directors and writers and stuff like that that are like, oh, can you do this voice? It's not like that type of genre. It's more like just clips
Yeah.
from the podcast that I'm posting. Uh, and yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
my biggest marketing moves. The biggest jobs I've gotten the biggest jobs through just emailing or just sending a direct message.
Nice.
Those are the biggest jobs that I've gotten, or getting a
Right.
direct message. And it's not really but
Okay.
for the journey, we got it through Chara. Shout out to Chara again; she's incredible. Uh, and yeah, the biggest moves that I do is like you said. I don't do the moves. I haven't gotten around to going this deep into it. Like you've gone deep into it with like video game devs. I haven't done that yet. Where I message them or like I hit them up on
Ah.
email because I just got out of hiatus. It's been
Mm-hmm.
7 months. Like I only got out of hiatus in August,
Yeah.
and I'm just kind of getting back into the swing of things right now, and I'm trying to get adjusted into everything. And I will be doing those big pushes
Nice.
soon, and hopefully, if I get an agent, hopefully, I've applied to like an agency as I've told you, and I got an audition with them, and hopefully, if they do get back to me, it's
Oh,
been a week now. I auditioned on Thursday a
nice.
week ago. Not this week's Thursday, the week before. And yeah, I'm waiting on a
Best
word.
of luck, man.
Thank you very much. Hopefully I get something back, and that will open up many new opportunities to me. That will be the biggest move in what we would call marketing, I would say, because it would put my name out there. It would getting an agent
Definitely.
is just amazing. That is the thing that gets you the biggest jobs and like the biggest contacts and everything like that. So the biggest pushes.
Yeah, it
Oh yeah.
definitely helps you out. I'm glad that you brought that up because I actually forgot to mention it. Because yeah, that does get you certain opportunities that you otherwise might not find easily on your own. And some opportunities, even if you find them, you can't apply to them except through agencies, like certain commercial gigs, maybe certain animation gigs. It's not impossible because I've seen some voice actors get some really big gigs on their own, but it definitely helps, especially in our case, as remote voice actors. If we don't have, we're still building up our resume. That does definitely give us a push, and it did help me out as well. Like I forgot to mention, like when I got the gig, what's it called, the video game New World. I got for Amazon Game Studios. That was through my former agency, the Jackson Agency, and also through the Jackson Agency, I was able to do incidentals, which is like small characters here
Oh
and
yeah, you've
there
told me.
in two Netflix shows. The Kuwaiti TV show called the Safka, and the other one, which was called Al Khalat, which was a Saudi Arabian comedy movie.
Oh yeah, it's so
So yeah, it
awesome.
was pretty fun doing both of them and getting in touch with different directors. So yeah, I really wish you luck. I hope you get that. You book a session and book then a really good agency.
Thank you very much, man. Yeah, the biggest thing that my biggest jobs. Let me tell you how I got, for example, the my commercial work, the Zane advertisement, and
Mm-hmm.
the Coca-Cola
Coca Cola.
commercial campaign. Yeah, and basically what happened was
Nice.
for the Zane one, I think I told this briefly in the previous episode. I basically did my Arabic commercial demo. I finished it and I sent it out to a bunch of companies in Iraq and the Middle
Okay.
East in general. And like basically one of them was Zayn, and they got back to me, and that's how we booked this session. Basically, I just sent an email to them out of the blue to like one of their random emails, and they somehow one of like their production team saw it, and they're like, "Yep, I want this guy." It was really
Oh,
really
okay.
cool. Yeah. And for the Coca-Cola commercial, I
Nice.
actually got that through LinkedIn. I was messaged through LinkedIn, and I didn't get the notification for it until it was like
Awesome.
2 or 4 days later, which is insane. I didn't get the notification for that message
Ah,
for a while, and so I
but I'm
replied
glad you
late.
saw it.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
glad
I'm
you
just
saw it.
it's really it sucks because like it was supposed to send me an email notification whenever I got a LinkedIn message, but
It
I didn't get
didn't.
it. So that's why that's why I always check my LinkedIn. You guys, you should always check your emails, check your LinkedIn, check your everything, because you might not know
True.
something
Check
might
your
have gone
spam.
wrong. Yeah, spam. Oh my God. Sometimes like really important stuff gets stuck in spam email.
That's true.
Yeah,
It's true.
and so basically, uh, that's the thing that I'm trying to do now is apply to rosters. I've been applying to rosters for the past like weeks, 2 weeks. Once I finished my English commercial demo, I applied
Mm-hmm.
to every single roster and updated my information on every single roster. Rosters are basically like they
Awesome.
to if someone does the listener doesn't know what the rosters are. Basically, uh, they're like an agent, but except you don't like get signed to them. You don't sign a contract or anything with them. What happens is the rosters, casting directors come to these rosters and they pay the casting director on them,
They look
and
for names.
yeah, look for names and see their database, and they send the auditions to specific people from that roster
Mm-hmm.
that fit what the casting director is looking for, and you can
True.
audition for those exclusive projects,
That's
and
true.
the people who made the roster get a cut. So that's what I've been signing up to, and honestly, uh,
Oh,
I haven't gotten anything back, but it's only been like a week or two. So I don't it's like it usually takes
yeah.
a month
Give
or
it
two.
time.
Yeah,
Sometimes longer.
exactly. Yeah. Sometimes, as you said, some things just take a year. Some productions take a very long
That's
time.
true.
And sometimes it's not even a year. Sometimes you send something and like a few years down the line, they come back to you. And it's wild, man. The voice acting world and
They
that
might, yeah.
in general, it's really, really, really interesting. And it's really you just gotta put yourself out there. You just gotta take whatever opportunity you get because that opportunity, like you gotta go ahead and jump into it and try it because you don't
True,
know what's gonna come out of
true.
it. You can't not like apply for something or like you can't be scared. You can't be nervous or
Yeah,
anxious or anything like that. You gotta just put your all
you gotta
into it and
put
full
yourself
throttle.
out there.
Yeah,
Yeah, you never know what's going on behind the scenes. You never know who's looking at your stuff, who's checking out your profile. You really never know. Like you never know how the process goes on. Even if you have what they usually call a dry spell, if you're not booking for, let's say, 3 months or 4 months, sometimes yes, if you could have coaching or some kind of practice or help, that would help you out. But also, you don't know when the next opportunity is coming along. Sometimes a specific director or so on could be following your work and then out of nowhere you're like, oh, you were cast because this person recommended you. You're like, really, this person knows my work exists? Yeah, they do. So because I've seen it happen. You never know, and you never know, sometimes you have that big audition and you're like, I really want to book this, and then you don't book it. It doesn't mean anything bad, it just means that maybe you're not what they are looking for at that time, but maybe you'll get another big audition, let's say a little bit down the line, let's say 9 months from now, 2 years from now. So we do always, as voice actors, because we mentioned this earlier, in the back of our head, we want that audition so bad, whatever the audition may
yeah,
be, but never put yourself down. Always keep going. Always keep going. It's a constant journey. It's the constant marathon. The amazing Brooke Chalmers said this to me in class before. He said, "We are in a marathon, not a race. This is not a race to the top. We're not seeing who's going to get there first. Everybody moves at a different pace. Everybody moves in a different path, in a different way. So we have to constantly remind ourselves, just keep going. Do your part, and believe me, it will unfold. No matter how slow it is, just keep going." So yeah, I don't mean
exactly.
to sound cheesy, but it's true. So
No, no, no. Of course, it's very, very, very true. I recommend even if people can't take classes,
mhm.
there are so many
Yeah,
resources on YouTube, man. You've got people like Booth Junkie.
true.
You've got people like Mike Delgadio. Mike Delgadio. Well,
I see his
actually,
stuff sometimes.
sorry, Mike Delgadio is Booth
Ah,
Junkie.
sounds familiar.
That's I was referring to Bill
Ah,
Deweese. Bill Deweese. He's incredible. His
yeah, I used to
channel
watch his stuff years
it
ago.
yeah,
Yeah,
his channel's a gold mine. He still makes videos, he makes live streams, and he just like he gives the best advice. Like the stuff that
nice.
you're saying right now, like for example, voice acting is a marathon and not a sprint. I think that's very true for a lot of businesses.
True.
There are a marathon. You have to keep being consistent because at the end of the
Nice.
day, voice acting is a business. And so he's given that advice before and he talks
True.
about so many different aspects. He talks about like the rates that you should be asking for. He talks about your setup and how you can make a demo. He just talks about really everything. Bill Deweese on YouTube, and there's a lot of them, a lot of those YouTube channels. I think one other like there's just you
That's a
search
lot
how to
like
start. Yeah,
Anthony Pica. Like he also makes videos like that, and sometimes, as you said, gives also advice on how to try to make a demo. Even though, yes, for those who are listening that are in the industry, would say do not make a demo on your own. But if you really can't afford one, because demos, if for those who don't know, can range between a couple $100 to a couple $1,000.
yep.
Believe me, a lot of people cannot afford that. Don't just sit there and do nothing. Try to do something. Try to make something. So even though this advice, a lot of people would say, no, don't make it. No, don't just sit there and do nothing. You can do your best, and these are sources, as Hussein was saying. You can check them out, and they will definitely help you.
I agree, and the thing is, I hear there are a few people, and not as many people. I don't know. I haven't discussed the topic of demos with a lot of people. But the thing is, as you said, a lot of people
Hmm.
refrain against that, or say you shouldn't make a demo yourself, or any of
Yeah,
the stuff like that. But I think for me, when making the my character demo that I still use to this day, I made it back in 2022, and my recent English commercial demo.
nice.
I think if you spend a lot of time on it, if you do a lot of revisions and ask the right people for feedback, and you actually put a bunch of time and effort. I took a month to make my character demo, and my English commercial demo took me
Nice.
like 3 weeks to make to really get the perfect like just to perfect it as much as I could. And that involved the process involved asking
Awesome.
my friends, and it involved asking voice acting colleagues for feedback on my performances. It took a long time. I must thank those people, of course. They really helped out with the process. But you can learn production. I
Awesome.
think my demos don't have like crazy
Yes.
production on them. It's just like basically I got music from the YouTube audio library. I got sound effects from like from either the YouTube sound library or the freesound.org website. And I really just put all of that
Oh.
together, changed a few sliders, like a few knobs on like the volume, and like EQ'd some stuff a little bit,
Hmm.
and that's really it. And I just put the same effects that I put on my voice when I send auditions. And that's really all the
Awesome.
processing and sound engineering, yeah, that I had to do. And I think they've booked me huge jobs. They booked my demo got me the opportunity for the journey. My Arabic commercial demo that I made in a week
Nice.
got me the opportunity with Zayn. My English commercial demo actually hasn't
Awesome.
got me to apply to an agency. So these demos open up opportunities. You guys need to make those demos. You guys need to put in the effort, even if you think you're not really good at it. Put in the effort. Try learning.
You never know.
There's so many resources. There's so many resources out there. YouTube has like unlimited tutorials, man. It's crazy. So never shy away from that. Never
That's
shy
true.
away from making demos. And yeah, like for me, as I said, I have an Arabic commercial demo and an English commercial demo, and I wonder for you, what do you think are the main differences between voiceover in the Arab world and voiceover in the Western world? What would you notice in demos and in work in general?
Uh, I'll be honest, like I'm not 100% experienced in that because I don't advise people to do this, but yeah, I don't work a lot locally. Uh, I tend to like work internationally more. But yeah, the way things work, since what I know is in Egypt compared to remote work, it is very different how things are. The way you approach a gig, they don't necessarily, they don't always ask you for a demo, depending on what you're applying for. Like for instance, one time I applied for, uh, or if you guys are familiar with escape rooms, they were looking for voiceover in English.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I applied to that, and then they needed like I don't know, like a lot of takes. It was so many takes. Then eventually they didn't take it. So the steps that are there, you would not always how do I put it? You would try to be more picky, maybe when for who you work with. I mean, any
Hmm.
job, any voiceover gig in the world, not just in Egypt. But here, I try to be very specific on who I'm working with because I don't mean to be negative, but yeah, there are good and bad experiences of that. But there were some really good experiences. It's mostly through connections. It's usually who knows who, that knows a studio, that knows this person that's looking for someone. That's a lot of how voiceover works in Egypt, according to my knowledge. Like when I got my gig in 2018 with the Ministry of Finance, they were looking for someone to do voiceover for them. So
Mm.
that was through a friend who is working in he had his own game development mini company startup, and he knew people that knew somebody that was part of the ministry that was creating this VR
So
experience,
crazy.
describing this yeah, it's strange, this new infrastructure that the president is working on for Egypt. So, and this was going to be displayed in an event in Sinai, which I think was probably one of, not the first time, but one of the first times I recorded a gig in studio, which was pretty awesome. And honestly, they were really friendly. The direction was pretty good. I did a few takes, and then 5 months later, they actually called me back, which was
That's so
awesome,
awesome.
and I recorded again. Uh, I didn't get to, of course, see the session itself, but I saw when the event. I think it was a summit Yeah, I think it was like an African summit or something in
Oh,
Sinai,
nice.
where there's a one of the reporters put on the VR headset, and he's like, "Oh, the guy who's narrating is narrating now," and that's all he was saying. So I was like, "Okay, at least he mentioned that I was narrating, but he didn't say my name." But still, it was still awesome to do that. So there are usually through who knows who. One
Oh,
of my
wow.
first jobs ever, like not just voiceover, like before I even became a teacher. This was back in 2012. No, not 2012. What was it? 2008? I can't remember. It was quite a while back.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2011 probably. So it was a friend of mine who went for a training session in this studio in Egypt called Ikra. Ikra was a satellite channel that has religious programs, and they dub a lot of these programs in English and French and a lot of other languages. So one of my friends found out that I started making my own dubbing videos, and she's like, "Okay, why don't you get a few samples on a disc, on a CD?" Yeah, guys, I know we're old. We have CDs. We used to have those back then, and you burn things on CDs. So I had to burn on a CD, download on the CD. So, anyways, sorry, sorry. I just teach students who are half my age all the time, so I have to. It feels like I'm 90 years old, but anyways,
Oh,
so,
yeah.
so I put it on a CD, some of my samples that I had at the time, gave it to her, and then she's like, she gave it to the person she knows at Ikra, and he liked it. So I actually met up with him first. And then he was like, okay, this is interesting. And then he took me there and we did a recording in their booth, a studio called Misk Studios. It was like literally a 2-3 hour drive from my college, but I didn't care. I went there, I tried it out. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, and we started recording for this TV show called The Reformers. It was a religious program, and I started dubbing various characters. And surprisingly, that early on, my skills that I used in my own fan dubs helped out. But I was not doing any editing. I was just recording, and the audio engineer, he was really awesome. I cannot remember his name, but he was pretty awesome. And they had the director that was there. Unfortunately, we never finished the program, but it was a really interesting experience to get to be in the booth for the first time and to hear my voice through a professional mic for the first time. Like a lot of you probably experienced this when you first hear your voice through an XLR mic. You're like, "Wait, is that me?" So yeah, it is you.
Oh,
So
yeah.
um, that was a pretty interesting experience. That was very early on when I started out. So yeah, the industry here it's kind of similar to international work where you do have to do a lot of digging and to try to connect with this person and that person, but it's more dependent on that than your audition or your demo. Of course, there are ways to audition and book work and ways to do that, but sometimes you would be surprised how you could book something. I did book a gig. I just remembered from a client from Saudi Arabia who messaged me on Instagram, and it was in my other messages. I was like, "Is this spam? Who is this?" So someone messaged me and they're like, "No, we're looking for voice actors, blah blah blah, in English, and we are a new satellite TV channel which was called 24 Saudi, and they wanted someone
Oh,
to record
interesting.
their news. Was it news broadcasts? So yeah, I actually read some news broadcasts, and believe it or
Mm.
not, I don't know how they accepted it. They accepted it, but I don't know how I was recording without a booth. It was just my USB mic, and it was in my
Oh,
room.
wow.
Yeah, and there's no treatment, no blanket, nothing. I think the only thing I did at the time is I put a blanket over my head. That's it. And then and I sent it, and he was like, "Okay, okay."
Yeah,
And
that's what most voice actors do, actually.
yeah, we start out somewhere, and I think I recorded one promo trailer for the
Yeah.
channel, and then unfortunately he disappeared. But at least I got to record those few lines, and it was a pretty interesting experience. So you never know; it could be through Instagram, it could be through someone you know, it could be someone you message. One time you could join if you want to go into like in the Arab world. Also find different groups that are related to this. I did get two gigs. One was
Oh,
this
yeah.
car commercial. It's not a big dealership, but still, it was like a local small dealership. They wanted to promote for their. It's like a grand opening for these motorcycles and cars they have. So they wanted someone to do it in English with a deeper like voice. So I did it for them, and I found them on one of these
Mm.
Arabic voiceover groups. That was one gig. It's actually part of my visual reel for my commercial demo. Another one was, yes, someone was looking for narration, and it turned out it was a client from UAE. I can't go into details of what kind of commercial demo it was because of NDA, but it was interesting to record with them, and honestly, it was a really good experience. They like we went live. They were talking about what the details were of what they wanted me to do with the commercial, how I wanted me to narrate it, and yeah. So it's mostly about who knows who recommends who, uh, to try to get on their radar as much as you can. Because if you're not on the radar, they'll never know who
Oh
you
yeah,
are. So and I guess you feel that more when you do it in person, when it's more local. You do see how it happens. Online, there's a lot of behind the scenes that's more oblivious to you as the voice actor that you don't see. So,
true.
yeah, so it's maybe it sounds similar, but it sounds different. Every voice acting experience or gig has its positives and negatives. Um, Again, I know a lot of you might be guessing that I'm trying to imply that there. I Yes, we all have our good and bad experiences, of course. Of those, let's say I'm not going to
Of
go into
course, yeah.
details on that, but let's say those who are like you record and then they disappear and they don't pay you, or those who whatever. So you have those kind of like experiences, but that builds up your experience for any work in the world. You're going to have those good and bad experiences. That's what gives you experience: who to
Of
work with,
course, I
how to
agree.
work with people, what to ask for, what to look for. How would you work so people would love to work with you again? To be respectable in the session, to respect the timing of the people you work with, to be ready, to prepare sides in advance if they send it to you in advance, things like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, man. For you, you've done
Excuse me.
quite a bit of like in person. I think you've done, as you said, you've done a few in person sessions. I've actually one time that I was about
Yeah,
to do. I've
three
only
or
done
four.
one. Oh, that's interesting. Three or four. For me, it's actually I thought it was going to be an in person session. Um, for the only job that I
Ah,
had
okay.
in Iraq, which is with Zayn. And because I've only had one job locally because I started marketing myself locally only last year, and it was a very small marketing push right before school started. So I wasn't able to really put myself out there.
Okay.
I will start doing that again soon. I will try to work with clients locally, like through
Nice.
when once I start like things actually kick back fully and I'm able to do things more freely and things are in a better flow state, I will actually try to market myself into a
Mm-hmm.
more local approach. But like I was gonna
Sounds
say,
good.
yeah, I thought it was gonna be an in-person session with Zain Telecom, but they because they called me for a
Yeah.
meeting and they told me to meet them at their headquarters, which were an hour away from my house, and
Wow.
I met them. Yeah, I met them, and basically we just spoke about the project and they gave me direction and we agreed on everything. And like we didn't I thought it was going to be an in-person session. They were like, "Wait, you have a studio?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh, that's perfect.
Ah,
Just
okay.
record from your studio." And at first, they didn't give me live direction. They didn't direct me live, but then like they
Okay.
second takes directed me live, which is really cool. And they were used for the final commercial. And yeah, that's the only local
Nice.
experience that I've had. But the other Arabic experience that I've had is with Mind Loop Studios, who are a studio
Mm-hmm.
in the UAE. They are in Dubai, and basically through them, I got
Oh,
the
nice.
gig for Coca-Cola. And basically, someone from the Mind Loop
Very
team,
nice.
yeah, someone from the Mind Loop team messaged me on LinkedIn. That's how we got in touch. And thankfully they were patient enough because the message got to me late and I responded and everything went great. I just sent my demos and the people over at Coca-Cola liked it. And so they cast me and I worked with them and they were absolutely wonderful. It was a session through Zoom.
It's
And
awesome,
yeah,
man.
that's how the advertisement was produced and it's really cool. Those are the only gigs that I've done, I would say, quote unquote, locally, just in the Middle East, I would say. The only one that is actually local is the Zayn
Okay.
one. The Coca-Cola one is still remote. But I have to do more, I hope to do more work like that very soon, and I'll actually
Nice, man.
market myself more in that field, uh, like in the very near future, because it's really cool to actually work in person and go in studio to record, and I would like to do that a lot more.
Yeah, it's a
So yeah,
different
man,
experience.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah, I was saying you reminded me my last in studio session was actually 2 years ago, where it was a short audiobook that I booked locally. And it was like a studio that, what were they called? They're called Atticon Studio. I got in touch with them and I recorded remotely for quite a while, for like a year or something. Then they're saying there was a book that I booked through them, and I went to their studio, and I recorded the whole thing from their studio. So it was pretty interesting getting direct
Oh,
feedback from them
wow.
face to face, meeting them for the first time face to face, and recording the like. It was like 6 pages, but still, it was pretty interesting to work on something like that face to face. And honestly, an experience I had, which I didn't imagine that would happen to me. Usually, when we're in our home studios, we're very comfortable with our own studios. We're very comfortable with our own
True.
space, and you're usually alone. Even if you talk to people online, you're still not 100% there. But when I was with them, it took me a while to get into the system of and the mood of recording, because
Oh, yeah.
sometimes you would be nervous meeting new people for the first time, but recording in a space you're not used to, it's kind of like getting a new car. You're like, how do I drive this car? So, yeah, it's a different.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It's a different mic, different everything. It took me like a full 10 minutes or something, and then okay, things were getting back into the groove of things, and they're like, okay, now that sounds like the demo you sent us. I'm like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Then we kept going, so it was a pretty interesting experience. I'm sorry, you just reminded me of that.
Oh no, of course, that's a very interesting experience. It's really, really interesting that you mentioned that because very recently, I just literally
Mm-hmm.
turned on some extra lights in my room, and like the room that I record in. It's not my room. I
Nice.
actually, fun fact, I don't even have my own room in the house. I sleep on the couch. It's a very small house. Yeah.
That's all right.
What happened was I turned on some extra lights in the booth that I record in, or like in the room that the booth is in. And I realized immediately, my brain was
Nice.
like, no, this is not right. You cannot be recording in a different lighting environment. And like something like I was taken
Wow.
out of it and I had to go out of the booth to turn off the extra light. Like you would usually want
Yeah,
more lights
yeah.
in your very dark booth. But for me, I was like, nope, I want it to be pitch black for some reason.
I get it. I get it. I actually tried to make a change to my booth setup like 7 months ago, where instead of my room door, I put this ladder or something. Then I was like, no, 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 it sounds wrong. Something is off about this recording. So I
Exactly. Yeah.
just removed the ladder. I was like, I'm not gonna close my room door ever again. I'm just gonna use it as part of my booth. So yeah.
That's amazing, man. That's the thing, man. I think I just got used to recording in the dark. Like I think I'm just from now on, every
Yeah.
studio session if I go to a studio session in real life, I will actually try probably close my eyes to imagine that I am in the situation that I'm in. But the problem is, how will I read the script? So I don't know how
Yeah.
that'll work. I gotta get comfortable, I guess.
Yeah. It just takes getting used to, I guess.
I guess, like recording. Do you have lights in your booth?
It's a good thing you asked. I mean, my booth, if you see it, like the way the blankets are covering my booth from the top, it blocks out some of the light in my room. So it's a little dark. So I had to put this small light at the bottom that I actually made space for by cutting a part of the acoustic foam around this light to
Oh
try to add
wow.
some light to it. But it's still slightly dark, but not too dark, because honestly, my laptop is right in front of me and I could still see it clearly. So I'm like, as long as there's light in the room, I'm good. As long as there's ventilation between sessions, I'm good. So,
For me, when I record, like this has been the case for I think a year or two. When I record, I just put my phone. Like basically, my setup is very very small. It's just couch cushion, pillow, pillow, couch cushion type
mm-hmm,
type deal. You know.
nice.
So I just put my
Best setup.
phone in the corner between. Yeah, put my phone in the corner between a few to like a pillow and a couch cushion, and I just put
Nice.
it there and I turn on the flashlight and I put on the document on dark mode, so it
Okay.
doesn't hurt my eyes too much,
Ah,
and
okay.
it's basically all around me is pretty much pitch black because it's a wooden closet covered by I put a blanket over me, like over the
Nice.
closet, like between two closet doors. It's a very, very weird setup, but it works
Mm-hmm.
for me. And yeah, I barely get any light in my booth basically. But it's still It still works. I can use my imagination to the fullest in that I don't
I
really
get
I
you.
don't have to see the couch cushion that looks like flowers, you know what I mean? It's just pitch black and I can imagine myself in the situation. It's really nice.
That's really really interesting. Like, yeah, setting the right
Yeah, man.
mood and the right environment really does make a difference. Like, I for me to not get interrupted and just make my phone silent. Sometimes I throw my phone out in the living room. I'm like, you stay quiet now. I need to focus. So yeah, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, man. So thank you very much. I've taken a lot of your time.
No, that's all right.
This
This is awesome.
I think we've got an amazing episode, and I really really appreciate you for coming on the podcast, man.
No, thank you for
It's been
having
really
me.
awesome. Do you have any closing thoughts? What do you have any thoughts you'd like to share? Anything you want to promote to the world?
Nothing specific. I think it's what I mentioned before about how anybody that wants to get into voiceover, no matter where you are, no matter who you are or what your background is, and no matter how old or young you are, you can get into it. Believe me. I mean, you just gotta persist. You just gotta really get into it. Because I've met people through the years. I met some of my students through the years, and believe it or not, some of their parents have messaged me and asked me how do I get into voiceover, and um I tell them what the whole thing
That's
is, and
amazing.
some, yeah, and a lot of people, I don't know if they went into it or not. Some people didn't. They would get intimidated by it. But if you want to do anything, no matter what it is, not just voiceover, believe me, you have to put in the work. And that work is not just something you do in 1 day or 2 days. It's a lifestyle. Voiceover is a lifestyle. Voiceover is the way you make that routine in your life, that I'm going to do this every week or every 2 days a week or maybe even every 2 weeks. But consistency is really what gets you there. Believe me, patience, consistency. It's bit by bit by bit. Those small little chunks of what you build do build up into something bigger. So it's really gonna get
I
you there.
100% agree.
And the last thing I'm gonna say, because I don't want to take too much of your time, is soon. I hope soon there are 2 or 3 gigs that I'm excited about. Actually, four gigs that I'm excited about that I want to announce hopefully soon. Oh yeah,
Ooh,
we're in October. One of them should be in a few weeks. Uh, that's all I'm gonna say. So I just want to
let's
talk about
go.
that.
That's awesome.
So I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, man. appreciate I appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I'm really happy to hear that. It's because I haven't been auditioning for like a while. I haven't been building up
Thanks,
those
bro.
like the backlog of gigs or getting cast or anything recent. I got cast for a video game recently. Um, Hopefully, I'll be able to work on that and
Nice.
announce it sometime
That's
in the
awesome, man.
future. Thank you, man. Thank you very much. And yeah, like you said, man, I think what you
I'm
said.
looking forward to it.
Thank you very much. And I think what you said about like gigs and like working, I think that applies to a lot a lot of passion, and a lot of projects and a lot of career choices and a lot of like careers that you can go into. I think that applies to any business that you start. Is that consistency? Is that anyone can do it? I always
True.
encourage people to try
True.
new things and to
Yes.
put their work and put passion and try to find their passion in a good time, in a timely manner, because passion is so, so, so
Very
important.
true.
And so a lot of people don't realize that, but people have to put
Definitely.
in that work. And yeah, man, that's an amazing way to close off the podcast.
Mhm.
Thank you for coming on, and thank you for the amazing
Awesome.
information that you shared with everyone. And it's really cool having you on, man.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
It's the same to you. It's a real pleasure being on this podcast.
I appreciate that, man. It is the honor is all mine, and I want to thank everyone for listening. If you guys have any suggestions or any guests you'd like to see on the podcast, let me know. Tune into the next episode next week on Wednesday. We have an episode every Wednesday, so see you guys then.
Bye.